All right, we are back here on the channel for our weekly college football predictions, and in today's video, we're going to be predicting every single bowl game up until New Year's, and of course, the second round of the college football playoffs. So before we get into the video, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more college football predictions. We'll be back for the third round / the final four of the college football playoffs, plus the national championship game into 2025. And again, this video will probably be around, 2 hours, an hour and a half long, predicting every single college football playoff game. On top of that, every single bowl game, again, all the way up until New Year's. There are some bowl games after the turn of the year, obviously, so we'll get those bowl game predictions in, plus the FCS championship game between Montana State and North Dakota State. We'll do that video, or do that prediction too, with the bowl games and the final four, obviously, with the college football playoffs as well. And here is, in fact, the full schedule. Nope, not that. That's our first prediction, and I totally butchered that. Oh my goodness. Right there is the first prediction, or there is our bowl schedule of predictions right there. So again, today is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas tomorrow, I guess. But then also we have our second round or third round of the playoffs on January 1st. Make sure to join us later today for our NFL Week 17 predictions, our college basketball best bets. None today, obviously, but there are games on Christmas, so make sure to join us for that, along with our NBA predictions for Christmas as well. Okay, now let's get into the first bowl prediction. All right, we're going to start with the playoffs first and then move on to the bowl games with that San Jose State game that you might have seen earlier and such, because the San Jose State game is today in the Hawaii Bowl versus USF. But our first game that we're going to start off with today is the Fiesta Bowl. On New Year's Eve, it is Boise State taking on Penn State, and this is the biggest underdog we are going to take straight up on the money line all video long. We are taking the Boise State Broncos to beat Penn State. Okay, Penn State is finally going to get got here. Boise's going to pull off one of the biggest upsets in, I wouldn't say it's in recent college football history, just in terms of the circumstance and again where it is at in the Fiesta Bowl, with it being a playoff game. This will be one of the bigger upsets in the last 10 years. I think Boise defeats the Nittany Lions in this football game. Okay, Penn State coming off a huge victory over Southern Methodist. Guys, that was a very winnable game for SMU. I think Kevin Jennings is going to be an excellent football player. He is only a sophomore. I think by the time he graduates and by the time he's ready to play in the NFL, I think Kevin Jennings is going to be a really good quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be a starter in the NFL, probably not, but I do think he's going to be one of these guys that's going to hang around, and I still believe it. He's going to lead SMU back to the ACC championship next year, and I think they're actually going to win the championship outright next year instead of losing to Clemson. So Penn State, again, it was a very winnable game for SMU. Penn State, then though, just made the plays they needed to make. Drew Aller did not play a bad football game. Sure, had a couple plays in the first half that didn't look great, but really, again, and what Aller's done all season long for Penn State, and it remained true in that win over SMU at home, was, again, Drew Aller just needed to do what Penn State needed him to do, and that's not turn the ball over, make all the right throws at the right time, and just let, again, the run game carry him. And that's, again, what Penn State did. Their defense, it was bend, don't break. It was literally the definition of a bend but don't break football game for Penn State. Let SMU into plus territory multiple times in the first half, but again, the turnovers they were able to force against Kevin Jennings were huge, and again, I got that one wrong. I thought SMU was definitely going to cover. On top of that, I did have them to win. Regardless, wasn't our best pick, but we're going to move on. I think Penn State, though, does lose to Boise. Guys, Ashton Genty's a problem. Okay, Ashton Genty's coming off of not winning the Heisman Trophy, and trust me, we will talk about the actual Heisman in a little bit, obviously in the Alamo Bowl with Colorado taking on Brigham Young. But Ashton Genty, again, is coming off back-to-back 200 rushing yard games. He needs, like 150, 135, I believe it is, rushing yards to break Barry Sanders' single-season record. I understand, again, Barry did it in a much smaller amount of games, but still, Ashton Genty has a chance to make history in the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve, and if Boise's able to win this game and move on to the Final Four, my goodness, again, the record will just keep getting extended, at least for Genty, with the amount of yards he's able to put up. Potentially, again, Genty can play 3 additional games this season. Madsen is not bad. I would say Maddox Madsen, I don't know if he's as good as Drew Aller is, but again, Madsen's one of these guys, like Aller, he does everything that Boise needs him to do. He doesn't really make mistakes, doesn't really turn the football over, and I get it, Boise hasn't played the best competition this season, but guys, their only loss is to the number 1 seeded undefeated Oregon. Boise's a 12-1 football team that lost on the road at Eugene by 3 points. I think they pull it off in this football game against Penn State. I think the run game is huge. Obviously, expect Ashton Genty to break out. He's already broken out, but expect him to have a dominant performance on the ground tonight against Penn State, or on New Year's Eve against Penn State. I think I think Ashton Jeanty gets over 220 in this football game because, again, if Boise is going to win, they are going to need that type of effort out of Ashton Jeanty, and I think they get exactly that. Give me Boise State to start running the football up and down the field here against this Penn State team. Again, guys, Oregon dropped 45 points in them. I get it, SMU only scored 10, but if Kevin Jennings just made the right plays and if SMU wasn't as, bad as they were in that football game at points, I really think Southern Methodist could have put up at least 30 points in that football game as well. I don't think Boise makes all those mistakes that the Mustangs did. They've had plenty of time to prepare for this football game. Give me the Boise State Broncos to win at that magical stadium it is for them, obviously, dating back to their win over, it was Oklahoma, right? I think it was Oklahoma. I think. Way back when, obviously. Give me Boise to win yet again in the Fiesta Bowl. It was a Statue of Liberty game. I think that was Oklahoma. I could be mistaken. But give me Boise State to beat Penn State in Phoenix, Arizona, or Glendale, Arizona. They'll cover the 10.5 points and they'll win the game outright as well. Let's go on to our second playoff game. We go to the Peach Bowl. It's the Texas Longhorns taking on the Big 12 champions. Of course, we're talking about the Arizona State Sun Devils. Guys, I like Arizona State, but unfortunately, I cannot pick them to beat Texas. Texas, again, has the easiest path to the championship game, and I think they, again, passed this test against the Arizona State Sun Devils. I want to believe in Arizona State. I really like Cam Skattebo. I think Skattebo's a great running back. He's a top 5 running back in the country, if not the number 2 running back in the country. There's some really good backs, but Skattebo's great, right? 1,600 rushing yards in the regular season. Obviously, Sam Leavitt, the freshman, has been great at quarterback for Arizona State. This is a team that's probably going to run the Big 12 again next season, even with Skattebo gone. Again, Leavitt is only going to progress as a quarterback. Jordan Tyson was great at the receiver position, obviously, for them. He had a 1,000-yard year for Arizona State, and they are getting 14 points in this game. That's why I am going to take Arizona State to cover the 14, but ultimately to win the football game, yes, it is going to be the Texas Longhorns. Texas is simply better, guys. Unfortunately, again, I want to believe in Arizona State, I really do, but Texas is just much better than this Arizona State team. Just the amount of talent that they have on this squad is tough to beat for the Longhorns. Quinn Ewers did not play a bad game, and that was always a question mark I had surrounding Texas. I always thought they were going to beat Clemson. It was just a matter of, again, if they were able to cover the spread or not. Ewers played fine in that game. It wasn't, again, a dominant performance out of Quinn Ewers, but he played all right. Of course, it was the run game, and it was the biggest game we've gotten out of in a while out of Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue had been kind of neutralized with this Texas offense, putting him like 40-yard, 30-yard, 50-yard games. Well, he pops out for 150 in the playoff win over the Clemson Tigers. Obviously had the huge run in that game as well. Wisner obviously out the backfield as well. Texas does feel like the much better football team. And again, Arizona State was one of these squads. Again, someone had to get out the Big 12, right? Texas got to beat the ACC champion in Clemson, who just snuck in, and now they get the Big 12 champion who just snuck in Arizona State as well. Again, if you had to, and again, this is nothing against Arizona State. I think they're a great football team. But if you had to rank all of the teams in the postseason, and if, again, the committee were to, if the committee were to rank all these teams, guys, Clemson would probably be 12, Arizona State would probably be 11. Let's just be honest. I would still, again, I rate SMU above Arizona State. I rate Indiana over Arizona State. And for everyone bitching and complaining, Kirk Herbstreit, about Indiana and SMU being in the postseason, well, Tennessee got blown out at Columbus. Guys, Indiana had the closest margin in the first round. I understand the game wasn't all that close, but hey, a 10-point game is a 10-point game. Don't give a damn. Indiana will be back next season. Fernando Mendoza will be an Indiana Hoosier, and everything will be okay in Bloomington, okay? The Hoosiers will be back next season. Trust me, they will go 11-1 in the regular season. They will go to Penn State next year and win. That's my new, they're going to go to Ohio State and win. No, they are going to go to Penn State next year and win. They're going to lose at Oregon, unfortunately. But Indiana, 11-1 next season. Just saying. 11-1 back in the postseason. They won't be able to deny the Hoosiers again. They're going to put them back in the playoffs for back-to-back seasons, and they will win a playoff game next year with Fernando Mendoza at the helm. I don't think he's as good as Curtis Rourke, but they'll make moves in the portal and that team will get better. Elijah Sarrett will be a senior, and that'll be a pretty solid team. Omar Cooper is going to be back regardless. And they committed a running back too. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting. Indiana committed a big running back too out the G5. Regardless, back to this football game. We like Texas. We just do. All around, they're the better football team. Okay. I want to believe in Arizona State, but again, as a whole, Texas is just the better football team. On defense, they're better, and the offensive line of Texas should be able to bully Arizona State. Arizona State's going to have to score a lot to win this football game because I really think Texas's offense will get going, and Texas's offense will be able to have whatever they want in this football game too. So give me the Longhorns to win. I think, again, I don't think they'll cover because I think Arizona State's run game will have some success, but 14, again, I think Arizona State makes this somewhat competitive, but I do think Texas wins. Give me the Longhorns to advance to the Final Four of the college football playoffs. Let's move on to the Rose Bowl. By far, the biggest game of, this entire slate we're going to talk about today. There's another big one coming up, but Ohio State, Oregon's an absolutely massive massive football game. It's the rematch of their first game, their first encounter earlier this season in Eugene, Oregon, in a game where, again, Will Howard slides as time expires. They couldn't run another play. Oregon wins it by 1 point against the Buckeyes, 32-31. Oregon, the only undefeated team left in college football. Will they beat Ohio State again? The answer is yes. Now, I came on here last week, and I really thought that Ohio State-Tennessee game was not going to be competitive, and what happened in the Ohio State-Tennessee game was exactly what I thought was going to happen. And I understand, again, we didn't get the Indiana game right, it is what it is. But exactly what we thought Ohio State-Tennessee was going to be, we nailed that right on the button. That's how much better Ohio State was than Tennessee. I've been saying it all season long. Tennessee's kind of fraudulent. I think Penn State's kind of fraudulent too. We'll see. Again, we'll see if we knocked out Tennessee last week. We'll see if Penn State goes away this week. Again, I think Boise might be able to get them. I think Oregon beats Ohio State in the rematch. Okay? I just think Oregon's the better team. Guys, I've seen Ohio State be too inconsistent in the season. They've lost, well, okay, the season's an understatement. It's overstatement. It's just the Michigan game, obviously. I know, again, they look great at Tennessee. Guys, that game's in Columbus. Again, Tennessee came up from Knoxville. They play the whole, we're from the South. We're not afraid of the cold. Let's, do our warm-ups with our shirts off. We're perfectly fine in this football game. And then what happens? They get ran all over, obviously, and anything the Buckeyes wanted in that football game, they got. This is in Pasadena, California. Weather's not going to be an issue. There's going to be no home field advantage for the Buckeyes. If anything, that home field advantage will be the Oregon Ducks. Okay, this is a traditional Big Ten versus Pac-12 Rose Bowl. It's going to be great. It is truly going to be phenomenal. It's the game I'm looking the most forward to out of all of these that we're going to talk about today, and I'm taking the Ducks. I think Dylan Gabriel in the offense is a big day. I think they do. Again, I think when you take Ohio State out of Columbus, you put them in the neutral site, a spot again where Oregon's been off for weeks at this point. I just think the Ducks are able to get them. Again, regardless of what you think of Penn State, and again, yes, maybe that Oregon-Penn State game was closer than it needed to be. Still, the Oregon offense dropped 45 points. Dylan Gabriel threw for 300 yards, and Oregon, again, has won every single game they've played this season. Sure, they haven't looked great in all of them, but at the end of the day, they're the only team that you can still say that is undefeated at this point in the season, and I do think they beat the Buckeyes. I do believe so. Ohio State's good, but again, I think Oregon's got the better quarterback play. On the ground, for as much hype as Quinshon Judkins came into the season with, Travion Henderson's great too, for as much hype as those guys have gotten, I think Oregon has a slightly better run game with Jordan James. I like the receiving core of Oregon. Obviously, again, you've got Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State, and you've got Emeka as well for Ohio State as well. Great receivers. The defense, Ohio State, they do have a good defense. I'll give them that. But again, we did see Oregon, they were able to score 32 in the first encounter. I think Oregon's going to be fine in this game, man. I do think they're the best team in college football. If I had to pick a winner right now of the entire college football playoffs, I'm still picking Oregon like I've been picking Oregon for quite a bit now. Give me the Ducks to take care of business. And yes, I was, if you couldn't tell, I was a little bit, the Indiana talk was kind of satire, but it wasn't at the same time. Well, again, the Hoosiers will be fine next season. But again, I've always been saying that I think Oregon's the best team in college football, and I still believe that. Give me the Ducks to take down the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl. Oregon wins right now, guys. We get tremendous value on the Oregon Ducks at plus money. This game will close as close to even as possible, I think, but right now, you get plus 105 on the Ducks. I would take it. Give me Oregon to win the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. Let's go on to our final playoff game, and of course, then we'll get into all the bowl games, starting with the Hawaii Bowl today. We go on to Notre Dame versus Georgia. I am taking the Irish. Okay, guys, if that Notre Dame-Indiana game taught us anything, it's just that's how good Notre Dame is. They are a different team than what they were at the beginning of the season, obviously, losing to Northern Illinois. They're a better team. They have now beaten proven good teams. I'm going to stop hating. I'm going to stop hating on the Irish, and we're going to take them here. And I kid you not, the reason I'm taking Notre Dame in this football game is because Carson Beck is not playing. For as much as you guys want to clown Carson Beck, and trust me, I've clowned Carson Beck this season as well, I think they get significantly worse at the quarterback position with Gunnar Stockton. I believe that. I think Carson Beck's better than Gunnar Stockton. I think Gunnar Stockton is going to struggle to make the right throws the right time in this football game. Sure, Georgia was able to win that second half and ultimately win the football game against Texas because of how effective they were with the rushing game out of Trevor Etienne, and Frazier and company. Sure, again, that will always be there for Georgia, but what happens when they fall behind against Notre Dame? A team that will, again, run the ball down your throat, and I get it, again, Indiana was able to shut down that run game past the first quarter, obviously. Jeremiah Love had the 99-yard touchdown run, a 98-yard touchdown run, and the rest of the game, he had 10 carries for 10 yards. I get that. Riley Leonard, though, just made all the right plays at the right time for Notre Dame as well. It's Riley Leonard, Maddox Madsen, Drew Aller. None of these guys are, crazy talents at the quarterback position, like a guy like Cam Ward, we're going to talk about later, like a Shedeur Sanders, hell, like a Jalen Milroe at times. I'm not going to put Milroe in that same conversation, obviously, with the first two, but regardless, Riley Leonard, though, just makes the plays at the right time. Jeremiah Love, again, if you take away that big run, sure, 10 carries, 10 yards, but I do think they will be able to effectively run the ball at points against Georgia. Texas, was able to run the ball against Georgia at points, and again, I think the difference maker in this football game for me is Gunnar Stockton. I know, again, people want to hate on Carson Beck. Sure. Again, Carson Beck, for as inconsistent as he was this season, for as many interceptions as he did throw this season, I completely understand that. He was still a very valuable asset for this Georgia team. Again, we want to make the comparison to these guys like, okay, yeah, Carson Beck would make the plays at the right time for the Bulldogs. He would throw some picks, I get that, but I really think not having Carson Beck in this football game is going to hurt Georgia, and ultimately I think that's what's going to cost them in this football game. Guys, Notre Dame's defense is very good, and now you get a guy in Gunnar Stockton who has played limited reps in live games, and you throw him immediately into the Sugar Bowl here. I just really think it's difficult for Georgia with, again, a backup quarterback against this Notre Dame offense. Guys, Indiana had one of the best offenses in all of college football this season, and for the most part, until the final 3 minutes of the football game, they were held to just 3 points. I'm not saying Indiana's offense is going to be better than a Georgia offense that, of course, can run the football. Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne and what Gunnar Stockton can do outside of the pocket. But again, Gunnar Stockton is no Carson Beck. And again, we're talking about Carson Beck, who's probably like, a 4th round, 5th round pick in the NFL draft this season, who, again, his draft stock tanked from 1st round pick now to where it is. But regardless, I do think this team is worse without Carson Beck. And I think this is where Notre Dame wins the football game. I think Jeremiah Love has a better game than he did against Indiana. Again, yes, he had the big run, but ultimately, again, you need more consistency out of Love. I think we'll get that in this football game. And Riley Leonard, again, I think, again, is not going to make many mistakes like he really, as the season has gone on. Leonard hasn't made that many mistakes. I think the Irish are fine in this game. Give me Notre Dame to win the Sugar Bowl, advance the next round of the postseason, where we will now have, I can now say it, we will have Oregon taking on Texas and Notre Dame taking on Boise State. Those are your final 4. That's a very interesting final 4. Wait, no, is Texas in the bottom half? Wait, hold on. No, I believe it's, hold on, let me just check this real quick. Yeah, no, oh, wait. Yeah, it's Notre Dame, Boise State, and Oregon taking on it, Texas in the Final 4. We will get to those when we get there, but that's what I have right now. 7 versus 3 and 1 versus 5 on the other side of the bracket. Okay, now let's get into the bowl games. Not going to go in depth as much for these football games just because there is a lot. I believe there are 21 of these. So again, we are going to be here for quite a bit. But we start things off here at the game today on Christmas Eve. Again, Merry Christmas. But we've got South Florida and San Jose State. To my knowledge, the only sporting event in America today. So if you need anything to bet on, here it is. Guys, we're taking the underdogs. Give me the USF Bulls. Again, a major part of these games that we have to talk about is the transfer portal. It's unfortunate because, again, these games are designed for teams like Colorado, right, who are playing most of their starters, like Travis Hunter, like Shedeur Sanders, right? These guys are still playing their bowl games in the Alamo Bowl against BYU. Some of these teams, though, like South Florida and San Jose State, they are not playing all of their guys. So it's always something we have to take into account for this football game. Neither of these teams lost too big in the portal. If anything, I think South Florida did lose a little bit more. But here's the thing. No Nick Nash in this football game is really going to hurt San Jose State. A lot of their offense is primarily just built around Nick Nash. And if it's Nick Nash actually catching the football or not, by the way, he got robbed of the Bolitnikov. How it went to Travis Hunter, I don't know. Nick Nash won the Triple Crown, and he's not the best receiver in college football. It's ridiculous. It's like Harold Fannin not winning the best tight end award. Trust me, we'll get to Bowling Green in a little bit. But again, Nick Nash not being in the offense really hurts San Jose State. Because again, then it takes, again, when Nick Nash is in the football game, it takes the attention of the secondary all on Nick Nash, and then it opens up guys like Justin Lockhart. It opens up Trayshawn Hurry. Now again, USF's one gets put on Justin Lockhart, who's a good receiver, but benefits tremendously from Nick Nash being on the field. On top of that, Walker Eget, the quarterback of San Jose State, who I don't think is as good as the guy who's in the portal, Emmett Brown. Again, whoever lands Emmett Brown in the transfer portal is going to land a phenomenal quarterback. But again, I've made this case all year long. I'll make it one more time on how stupid I think the San Jose State coaching staff is from going to from Emmett Brown to Walker Eget. Guys, when Emmett Brown got benched, San Jose State was a 4-1 football team. He threw for 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 58% completion rate. Walker Eget, since taking the starting job, 2,000 yards, obviously, more than Emmett Brown, 2,200. Lower completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Why did they move on from Emmett Brown? I don't know. It blows my mind. Whoever gets Emmett Brown in the transfer portal, I don't know who it's going to be. I think Danny O'Neal left San Diego State. I'd love to see Emmett Brown down there at SDSU. There are spots for him to play, and I hope he does not have to go down to the FCS level, because there are Division I schools at the FBS level that will be more than willing, I think, to start Emmett Brown next year as their starting quarterback. I think, again, it would be a great spot. He was a former Wazoo guy. I hope, again, Emmett Brown gets a spot somewhere. Regardless, I think South Florida actually wins this football game. Again, no Nick Nash in the lineup is really going to hurt this football team. And from my knowledge, again, Nick Nash is not entering the portal. He is, again, going to the NFL draft. To my knowledge, I believe Bryce Archie is still playing this game for USF. Archie is not a phenomenal talent, but again, he will make, he'll throw for yards, he'll throw some interceptions. But I do think USF's offense will be fine this football game. I do think they're able to outpace San Jose State, who did, again, finish the regular season on a very high, beating Stanford, obviously. Stanford had to come to San Jose, and the Spartans were able to win that football game. Walker Eget threw for 385 yards, but Eget's so inconsistent. And I get it. It was a rain game when they played UNLV. I was there for that one, but Eget throws for 81 yards. He goes like 4 for 20 throwing the football. I don't care how badly it was raining. You got to complete some of those balls. I mean, that was the one game where Nick Nash had like 6 yards. It just can't happen. I think USF gets this one. Again, I did talk about this one a little more in depth than I will for the other ones, just because, again, I've been to multiple San Jose State games this season, and I watch SJSU every single week. I do think, though, South Florida gets this one. Again, no Nick Nash really hurts this football team. And, again, we have not seen Walker Eget play this season without Nick Nash. I think that's really going to hurt them. I think Eget makes a lot of stupid decisions with the football, and I do think that the Bulls are able to win this one. So give me USF to beat San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl, plus 125 dogs, and to cover the 3 points as well. Next up, we go on to the Game Above Sports Bowl. I believe this got to be a new one. This was the Detroit Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, and this used to be the Meineke Car Care Bowl. It might have been. No, this used to be the Little Caesars Bowl. Maybe it was the Meineke Car Care Bowl too. I don't know. These change names all the time. But you get the Pittsburgh Panthers taking on the Toledo Rockets. Pitt did lose in the portal. They did lose quite a bit in the transfer portal. That's why, again, they are only at 6.5 in this football game. Rodney Hammond was a very surprising move to me in the transfer portal. Nate Yarnell enters the transfer portal as well. I don't think he's committed yet. Obviously, Eli Holstein's the guy here. Why would Yarnell sit his senior season behind Holstein, who's obviously been marked as the starter? I think Holstein's playing this week. I think he is. If not, it will be David Lynch. Last I read, they were hoping Holstein can play this bowl game. If not, again, it will be David Lynch, because Nate Yarnell has already left the program. David Lynch, I believe, is a true freshman out of East Greenwich, Rhode Island. He's played very limited snaps, but at the same time, guys, they're still playing the Toledo Rockets. But anyways, the move for Rodney Hammond away from Pitt, again, I expected it, obviously. He was suspended for most of the season. Him going to Sacramento State's a really shocking move. I get it, Sacramento State's a really good program at the FCS level. I don't think they're going to be playing in the Pac-12 next season. Obviously, I think that's a couple years away. So there's still going to be a team playing in the FCS level next year. Again, Sac State's a team that's going to win down there. They were in the postseason this year, and they've been in the postseason time year in and year out. Hell, again, Cam Scadaboo was a guy who was at Sacramento State a couple years ago. I got to watch him play when he was at Sac State. But I don't know. It's just a weird move. I feel like Hammond could have gone somewhere else, the FBS level, but I understand it. Again, hey, dominate down there at Sac State. You're still going to get some teams probably looking at him, obviously, in the NFL draft, I would think, again, because Hammond was so dominant for Pitt prior to, again, the suspension this year. But hey, Desmond Reed's been a force for this team. I believe, is Reed playing this game? I think Reed's playing. I think. because he did not play the Boston College game. I'm not sure if Desmond Reed is still injured or not. Regardless, though, ultimately, of who plays this football game for Pitt, they should still able to beat the Toledo Rockets. Guys, it's a MAC team taking on an ACC school. An ACC school in Pitt, by the way, at one point in time was ranked. They were 7-0 before they had to go into Southern Methodist, and they got blown out, and this team has not won a game since, obviously. They started 7-0. Here they are at 7-5, and that was partially the reason why I liked SMU so much, is because I thought so highly of the Pitt Panthers, and I was like, hey, if SMU's able to do that to them, then, look how good, the Mustangs are. But I do think Pitt's able to win their first game in months here against Toledo. Toledo did lose a little bit in the portal, not that much though. Tucker Gleason against their guy at quarterback, but the way they finished their season was so just, They were 7-3, then they lost back-to-back games to Ohio, which is not a bad loss, but then they lost on the road to the Zips of Akron. That one is not great. It's not a great win. Not a great loss, excuse me. So that's why we will be taking the Pitt Panthers to take care of business here in the, what is this? The Game Above Sports Bowl. What does that even mean? I don't know. All right, here is our next bowl game, and I messed up the graphic. This is my fault. This is not the Game Above Sports Bowl. This one is not the Sports Bowl. I messed up the graphic. This is the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, I believe, or the Rate Bowl. Between the Rutgers Scarlet Knights and the Kansas State Wildcats. I believe this was originally the Cheez-It Bowl. I don't remember what it was before. It's the game that's played at Chase Field, obviously, where the Arizona Diamondbacks play. So it's that game. This one usually gets bad attendance, from what I remember. Anyways, K-State's playing Rutgers. We are going to be going with K-State to cover the 6.5 points and win the game outright. Kansas State's a team that I've been saying all year long is not good, and they just aren't. They did win their biggest win of the season, and why they appeared so great to people is that they went on the road to Boulder and they beat Colorado, which is a good victory for them. They beat Oklahoma State when they were ranked, but I always thought this team was very fraudulent. They went to Brigham Young and lost 38-9 in Provo. They went to Houston and lost. They lost to Arizona State, obviously. They were able to beat Cincinnati, who really cooled down as the season progressed, and they lost their last game on the road at Iowa State. But they're taking on Rutgers, who is another team that really just didn't look good down the stretch, right? This is a team that starts 4-0. They pick up their biggest win, of the season, obviously, going to 4-0 with a huge win, beating Washington on a Friday night, but then they lose 4-0 to Nebraska, Wisconsin, UCLA, USC. They beat Minnesota, which ended up being a really big win. Goes to the road to Maryland to win that game to become bowl eligible. They beat Illinois, and then they went to East Lansing and beat Michigan State. That is crazy. I did not think that was going to happen, but good for Rutgers. They have found themselves as bowl eligible. Kalamankis, obviously, he got his revenge game against Minnesota this season. The team is obviously not where they're at because of Kalamankis. He's mostly just a facilitator, and he just hands the ball off and makes some throws at the goal line, obviously, and in the red zone that they need him to make. Obviously, Kyle Monagai is their guy here at Rutgers. They are a run-heavy offense, obviously. But I do think K-State's the better football team. I do believe so. I think Kansas State is better than the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. DJ Giddens makes a difference on this football team. Avery Johnson as well, their starting quarterback. Neither of those guys in the portal, from my knowledge. Again, I think these guys are playing this game. I know the NFL draft, again, is always an issue. But I believe Giddens is playing, though, right? Because Giddens is a junior. I think he's going to the draft, but I think he's playing this game. I could be mistaken. There's a lot to keep track of. Again, I have 25 games today to try to keep track of. So, again, there's some guys that I know are playing. Like, I know Nick Nash is not playing. I know Harold Fannin is playing for Bowling Green. It's just a lot to keep up with. Regardless, I am taking K-State to win the football game, regardless of who's playing on either side for this football game. I do think Kansas State's better. They have more talent than Rutgers. This is going to be a run-heavy game. This is what both these teams really excel in doing. I don't think Avery Johnson's that good for Kansas State. Again, it was DJ Giddens, and Avery Johnson with his legs, obviously, was effective. In terms of the passing game, again, yes, Kansas State was very shaky this season. Same for Rutgers, though, as well, right? These were two teams that did struggle at points in both the Big Ten and the Big 12, but I do think the Big 12 gets the better of the Big 10 here in this one. I am taking Kansas State to take care of business, not in the games sports bowl, whatever, but in the Rate Bowl in Arizona. I like Kansas State to take care of Rutgers here. Give me Avery Johnson and the guys to pick up a victory here. We're going with K-State over the Scarlet Knights. Next up, we go to the 68 Ventures Bowl. I don't know what 68 Ventures is. I assume it's a military thing, I think. I could be mistaken. Maybe I'm just dumb and I don't know what 68 Ventures is. But regardless, Arkansas State takes on Bowling Green. So again, we mentioned him earlier, the best tight end in the country, a guy that is going to be, probably a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick, and whoever gets him in the NFL draft is going to really find a steal in Harold Fannin. Fannon's a monster for Bowling Green. He was a top 5 pass catcher in all of college football this season, including wide receivers, and of course, they didn't give him the tight end of the year, which makes no sense. They gave it to Tyler Warren instead from Penn State, who's a good tight end, but man, Harold Fannin, the stats this man put up this season, right? 1,350 yards, 9 touchdowns, 100 catches. Connor Bazelak loved getting him the football, and that's why Bowling Green was so effective this season with Terrion Stewart out the backfield. I would expect Bowling Green to beat Arkansas State in this game. I think so. Again, Arkansas State was a team that we took a lot this season to say, hey, like, they might not win it, but they're going to find a way to cover. And that's kind of what they were doing at the end of the season. I mean, they were turning in victories again at Georgia State. They beat UL Monroe down the stretch to become bowl eligible. Obviously, again, Jalen Rayner is their starting quarterback, who turned in a pretty good season in his first year here at Arkansas State. Yes, he turned the ball over at times, but as a whole, I would say the season was somewhat of a success for Rayner. They had a couple running backs that are really good in Zach Wallace and Jaquez Cross. Corey Rucker is a really good receiver for this Arkansas State team as well. But I do think Bowling Green's a better football team. Obviously, again, there's a reason they are getting 7.5 points, and I'd expect them to cover that. Harold Fannin is playing this football game for Bowling Green, despite, again, going to the NFL draft in a couple months. That's, Bazelak's guy right there. Fannin, again, 1,300 yards. They've got Malcolm Johnson as well, who's going to be their leading, again, just straight wide receiver. But again, Harold Fannin is the main pass catcher for this Bowling Green Falcons team, and I do think Bowling Green wins this one. Again, Arkansas State, they did lose at the end of the season to Old Dominion, which I don't really like. Again, as a whole, Arkansas State did us well covering some of these games this season. They went to Michigan and they covered, right? That's probably their most impressive game all season long in a loss. Like, just as a whole, that was their most impressive game, only losing by 10 at the road at Ann Arbor. I know that was when Michigan was at its lowest point this season, but still, I do think the Bowling Green Falcons are able to get this one in the 68 Ventures Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama. I think they defeat Arkansas State in this basketball game. Give me Bowling Green to win, and I think they cover the 7.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to the Armed Forces Bowl. So now we move on to December 27th. All those games were on the 26th. And here are the 4 games taking place here on Friday. We start things off here with Oklahoma taking on Navy from Fort Worth, Texas, again in the Armed Forces Bowl. And I like the Oklahoma Sooners to defeat the Navy midshipmen here. Navy's coming off their biggest victory of the season, obviously. Beating Army in the Army-Navy game, it was a huge victory. Again, I cannot understate how big of a win that was for Navy. Obviously, this is a team that's not going to really find too many guys in the portal. Oklahoma, obviously, is going to be without their starting quarterback tonight, or again, for this bowl game, Jackson Arnold was kind of the starting quarterback. Most of the season he was. If I'm not mistaken, Michael Hawkins is still playing this game, I believe. Obviously, again, the new quarterback at Oklahoma next season, a guy I'm very excited for on this team, is going to be the former Wazoo quarterback in John Matier, and we're going to talk about how much of a difference that makes next season, obviously, for Wazoo and for their bowl game in the Holiday Bowl against Syracuse, which I don't know how competitive that game is, but obviously, again, Matier's the guy. He turned down 7 figures from Washington State to be able to play for the Sooners next year, so good for him. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Hawkins is playing. I do not see Michael Hawkins' name in the transfer portal. Jackson Arnold is going to Auburn, which is a move I really don't like that much for Auburn, if I'm being honest. I don't think that really helps them that much. I don't know. Post-Peyton Thorne era, obviously. But to my knowledge, Michael Hawkins is playing, because I don't see him in the portal. But that's a guy to expect to be in the portal, though. Well, Matier, because, Hawkins is a freshman. I guess he's just going to sit under Matier for a season. I think, or maybe he hops in the portal after this game. That wouldn't surprise me either. I don't know. I still think, again, regardless if he plays quarterback for Oklahoma, guys, Oklahoma's got better talent than Navy. They should definitely win this game. Oklahoma was very unimpressive for most of the season. That is 100% a thing. Yes, they were very unimpressive. They have a big victory over Alabama, though, and that's the thing, again, to become bowl eligible. That's, if anybody wants to tell you that Alabama was more deserving and should have been in the playoffs over SMU, Indiana, or hell, even the ACC champions in Clemson, you can tell them that Bama went to Oklahoma and lost 24-3 in a game where Jackson Arnold threw for 68 passing yards. Okay? That's what you can tell anybody. Okay? It's ridiculous. I think Oklahoma wins this game against Navy. Again, Navy's coming off some big victories, obviously, against Army. They finished out the season beating East Carolina on the road. We will talk about Caden Hauser in East Carolina in a second. But we can't forget, guys, Navy, when they played a decent Tulane defense, lost 35-0. They couldn't score against the Green Wave. That's bad. They lost 24-10 at E.J. Warner and Rice. Notre Dame beat them 51-14. And no, I'm not comparing Oklahoma to the Irish, but it's just a different game when you're taking on an SEC team. And again, I'm not trying to glaze the SEC at all, but when you're getting a team from the American like Navy, guys, they're not gonna have the talent to keep up with a team like Oklahoma. I'm just like, one of the service schools are not gonna, like a service school like Navy is not going to compete with Oklahoma in this game. All right, -3. I do like the Sooners, regardless of, yes, I know the Sooners have a lot in the portal. I still think they're able to find a way to win this football game. Give me Oklahoma to win, and I like them to cover the 3 points as well. Let's move on now to the Birmingham Bowl. We've got Georgia Tech taking on Vanderbilt. I think a really close game and a really fun game here in Birmingham, Alabama. You've got does Birmingham have 2 bowl games? Oh, Arkansas State Bowling Green's in Mobile, Alabama. My fault. Regardless, another bowl game here in Alabama in back-to-back days. Should be a fun game in the Birmingham Bowl. Why? Both starting quarterbacks are expected to play, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Haynes King is playing this football game. I know for a fact Diego Pavia is playing, obviously, because he's been the center of attention, obviously, with the NCAA granting the JUCO players another year of eligibility. So obviously Pavia is playing this game because he'll be back next season at Vandy, and he'll be pretty good for this Vandy team next year. And I think Haynes King will be playing his final football game. Will Haynes King, make that next step? In the NFL, I don't know where he would go. I mean, I assume maybe he'll be a practice squad guy. Maybe he'll be an XFL guy next season. I don't know. But Haynes King, last I checked, should be playing this football game. And guys, Georgia Tech coming off that big loss, but, a game that they probably should have won if it wasn't, if the referees called the helmet hit. Against Georgia. Huge game, though. Again, they lost it 44-42, but a very impressive loss, if you want to say, for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in that game. This is a team that really turned it on at the end of the season, right? Beating Miami when Miami was still ranked number 4 in the country. They beat NC State. They almost went to Georgia and won as well. This is a team that will run the ball right down your throat with Haynes King, with Jamal Haynes. I mean, this is a really good running team. Their defense is not horrible either. Vanderbilt, for as good as they've been this season, right? Beating Alabama when Bama was ranked the number 1 team in the country, right? Pulling off some really big upsets, covering in a game against Texas earlier this season, right? Going to Auburn and beating the Tigers by 10 points. I am a little bit concerned about them because they've lost 3 in a row, right? They lost to South Carolina, they lost to LSU, they lost to Tennessee. Pavia's a dog, I get that, but I don't know. Those last 3 games, they were very unimpressive. And I did think actually they were going to beat Tennessee because it's still, again, I don't think Tennessee was that good this season. I really again, if you want to complain about Alabama being in the playoffs, well, maybe they should have beat Tennessee because if they beat good old Rocky Top, then they should have gotten the playoffs. But you want to complain about Alabama, Tennessee beat Alabama. So again, say the Volunteers aren't worthy and then see where that conversation gets you. I think Georgia Tech wins this football game. Vanderbilt, again, sure, their defense will keep them into games. Pavia will make some good plays, some really good plays. But ultimately, I do think the Yellow Jackets are the better football team. Haynes King, again, playing his last collegiate football game. We know Diego Pavia is not playing his last collegiate football game, but I do think the Yellow Jackets are able to win this one. Give me Georgia Tech here in the Birmingham Bowl over the Vanderbilt Commodores. Let's go on to our next game. We move to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, where we have the Big 12 zone, Texas Tech, taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks here from Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm going with the underdogs. Give me Texas Tech to win the football game. Guys, Texas Tech really figured it out at the end of the season. They really did. Now, again, they are a different team when Taj Brooks is playing, and last I checked, Taj Brooks was not playing this football game, right? Yes, so I'm seeing an article right now. A hint says Taj Brooks likely not playing the Liberty Bowl. I think it's kind of ridiculous. We are less than a week out from this football game, and we don't even know if Taj Brooks is playing or not. But I would say, again, and I'd expect Taj Brooks not to play. Again, Arkansas is going to have their list of guys who aren't going to play this game either, but the biggest player not playing in this one is 100% undoubtedly Taj Brooks, because Taj Brooks had such a huge year for Texas Tech this year. He was their offense, ran for 1,500 yards, and again, we will get to the passing game of the Red Raiders in a second, but Taj Brooks was really good for this team this season, obviously, right? I mean, every game other than their loss at Pullman against Washington State, Taj Brooks ran for over 100 rushing yards. I think the only other guy I could be mistaking in college football that can say that is Ashton Genty, I think. I could be wrong, but Taj Brooks had a huge year this year, so him not playing this game does kind of suck for the Red Raiders. I assume they will turn it to their backup running back in either Jacoby Williams or Cameron Dickey. Both those guys did have 26 carries this season. Dickey, 26 for 151 yards, and then Jacoby Williams, 26 for 113 yards. They're both freshmen, so I don't really know who they're going to go to. Probably Cameron Dickey, but anyways, I do think Texas Tech will still be able to effectively throw the football with Brennan Morton. I expect Morton to play this game. He is a junior, and I don't believe he's transferring. I've not seen Morton's name in the portal, so I think Morton is coming back next season. They do have Will Hammond, who's a freshman, but again, it is Morton's team next season. And the receiving core, again, for Tech's not horrible either, right? Josh Kelly, Caleb Douglas, Corey Eakin, they've got guys who can catch the football. And I haven't talked about the Razorbacks much. You know, I don't think Arkansas is horrible. I don't think they are, but they were a 6-6 SEC team. I think Taylor Green again is going to be a very good quarterback in the Southeastern Conference for years to come. But right now, I don't think he's the best. I think he's good, but I don't think he's a guy that can single-handedly win the game here for the Razorbacks. I think Texas Tech's just the better team. Again, Texas Tech does get into a lot of shootouts. That's kind of how they play every single week. I did stop taking the Red Raiders for a little bit after their bad loss at home against, oh God, who was it at the end of the year? No, it was their loss at Texas Christian when they blew that game to the Horned Frogs. That was bad. I did stay away from taking Texas Tech for a while. But I do think they win this football game. Again, Morton will air it out, and this passing offense, I think, is going to be too much for the Razorbacks to handle. And on top of that, I just don't think Arkansas is able to match the scoring effort out of Texas Tech. So give me the Red Raiders at the Big 12 to win a high-scoring affair here against the Arkansas Razorbacks, of course, in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Give me Texas Tech as plus 100 dogs to win the game outright against the Razorbacks. Next up, we go to the Holiday Bowl. We are still here again on Friday. We've got one more game on December 27th after this, but we've got Syracuse taking on Wazoo. This might be the biggest blowout in all of the bowl season. It might be. And okay, we've had some blowouts though. Tulane got blown out, and then UTSA blew out Coastal at Myrtle Beach. Okay, it might not be a bigger blowout than UTSA and Coastal Carolina. Regardless though, Syracuse taking on Wazoo. I really feel good about how many points we're getting? We're getting a lot of points in this one. We're getting 16.5. I think Syracuse gets this fairly easily. Guys, Syracuse was playing by far their best ball at the end of the season, and it wasn't even close. We successfully predicted the Orange to beat Miami. They were, plus 14 dogs? We took them as plus 12 underdogs to go on the road to Berkeley and beat California as well. Again, I've been riding the Orange a lot this season. I mean, we've been really big on Syracuse all year long, and it's because of Kyle McCord. I think the only times I faded Syracuse was the UNLV game. I think I faded them because they're on the road, and then I think it was the game against Pitt, obviously, where they didn't win on a Thursday night, where McCord threw, 5 interceptions. I think we've done pretty well picking the Orange all year long, and we're going to continue to pick them here. Guys, I really like what Kyle McCord's got going, and this is a spot, and Kyle McCord's going to be a late, 6th round, 7th round pick. He'll be in like a Sam Hartman type position in the NFL next season, where he's going to be on someone's practice squad, I would assume. But Kyle McCord can sling it, and that's, again, any quarterback who's in the transfer portal should look to play for the Orange next season. I'm serious, because of how much they throw the football and how effectively they throw the football. All quarterbacks should be looking to come to Syracuse. I really like what the Syracuse team has got going on. They can run the ball when they want to as well. Quinn Allen was a guy who ran for 900 yards this season. Again, yes, it was a lot of their pass game with Kyle McCord and their high-tempo offense and their high-scoring offense, but yeah, they can run the ball too. I really like what Syracuse got going on. What did kill them at a lot of points of the season is that they, one, weren't able to tackle, and two, they just weren't able to play defense and cover anybody. Well, they don't got to play Washington State without, by far, their biggest playmaker in John Matier. I mean, John Matier led their team in rushing, he led their team in passing this season as well, obviously. I believe the backup quarterback is going to be ZV Ekus, who's going to be starting. He is a senior out of Culver City, California. This is a guy who came to Wazoo after playing 3 years at Bryan. I don't know why he came here, because I believe Matier was expected to be the starter for quite a while this year, so or in the offseason, so I don't really know why he came here being the backup at Bryant, being the starter at Bryant, now trying to challenge Matier for the starting job. He wasn't bad at Bryant. His one downfall was that his sophomore season he threw 15 interceptions. But I don't think he's a horrible quarterback, but Wazoo loses a lot in the portal. Again, this is a team that is going to be without John Matier this game and obviously next year as well. I think that's really going to hurt Wazoo. And on top of that, guys, with John Matier playing, Wazoo was really bad at the end of the season. They started the year 8-1. There was talk about, are they a playoff team? Even if Boise wins the Mountain West and Wazoo's 11-1, can we put them in the playoffs? No, Wazoo was horrible, guys. They beat a lot of bad teams in the Mountain West. They beat Washington, which is by far their best victory. They beat San Jose State again. They kind of got lucky in. I'm not gonna lie, they got lucky. But they ended the season barely beating San Diego State. They beat Utah State, who's bad all year. And they lose to New Mexico. Shout out the Lobos. Again, guys, I've been trying to tell you about Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier is going to have a season next year at Utah. As long as Cam Rising's old ass goes away, Devin Dampier and the New Mexico Lobos are going to dominate at Utah. I was really hoping Eli Sanders went there, but Eli Sanders is at SC, which sucks, but it is what it is. Washington State then loses to Oregon State and then loses to Wyoming in their last game. Wyoming was horrible this year. What is Syracuse going to do? I'm serious. If this was a fight, guys, if this was a UFC fight, I'd be talking about it like, oh, why do they sanction this fight? Like, oh, this would be like the equivalent. I don't know if you guys remember and how many of you are going to get this reference. When Dana White, I think it was Connor, leaked his text messages with Dana White when he was trying to fight Diego Sanchez about around the time where he was trying to get a fight. Eventually they gave him Cowboy Cerrone. And Dana White said in response to Connor saying, oh, have me and Diego in Ireland. That would be a scrap. And Dana said, dude, if we made that fight, we'd lose our promoter's license. Exactly. This is what this game feels like. Syracuse is going to blow the doors off of Wazoo here in the Holiday Bowl, and I hope Fox enjoys one of their, 2 bowl games that they get this season. Okay. Next up, we go on to the game I was talking about a little bit earlier, and I completely jumped it out of line. SC takes on Texas A&M. I like A&M in this football game. I think this line's actually moved in the 4 hours since I've made this graphic. So originally when I made this graphic, the line was at 1.5. Actually, no, I just butchered the graphic on this one. The line is 2.5 for this football game. I like A&M to cover that. I think they are a better team than USC. Obviously, again, Connor Weigman was the starting quarterback to start the season. Then it became Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed was much better than Weigman. For USC, I mean, they went from Miller Moss to Jaden Maivia. I think Miller Moss is better than Jaden Maivia, but it is what it is. Maivia is the guy. Obviously, Miller Moss got pushed out. He will be a member of the Louisville Cardinals next season, which I don't think is a bad move at all. I like it. But I do think A&M's able to win this football game. Guys, USC, sure, you look at their record. Oh, they're 6-6 in the Big Ten this season. But who are their wins in the Big Ten? Wisconsin, okay, but they were very shaky at times this season. Rutgers, again, Rutgers on the road, going from New Jersey to California, rough. Nebraska sucks. I'll get to them in a minute. And UCLA, not a very good football team. Just USC's defense isn't that good. They got scored on a lot this year. Their defense didn't look bad against teams like UCLA and Nebraska, but when they play better offenses, they do get scored on, and I'd expect Texas A&M to score on them a lot this game. I'm not going to tell you that this game's going to be a blowout. I don't think it is, but I just think A&M's a better football team than USC. I like what Marcel Reed does, obviously. I think, again, their run game isn't horrible. Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels, either of those guys can have big nights at points. I just think A&M's the better football team. Both these teams lose a lot in the portal because they are USC and they are A&M. Like at that point I was making very early in the video, obviously. I don't know if I cut that out or not because I did butcher that, but whatever. Again, both these teams are going to lose in the portal, but A&M, I do think they've been the better team all season long. I do think their depth is about the same as SC. I'll be honest with you. I know SC, again, is always one of these teams every single season. Oh, look at their recruiting class. They're great, but then they get on the field and they go 6-6. Just like, who cares? Give me A&M to win this football game. In the Las Vegas Bowl, we like Texas A&M to cover the 2.5 points and win the game outright as well. I'd expect this line to continue to move, though, if I'm being honest. But I do like A&M to take this one in the Las Vegas Bowl. All right, let's go into Saturday. Guys, there are 7 bowl games on Saturday. Oh, my, no. Yeah, 8 bowl games. Wait, there are 8 bowl games on Saturday. Wow. So the remaining schedule, we have 8 games on Saturday. Again, we're going to get through all of them in today's video. 8 games on Saturday, 1 game on Monday, and then we've got 4 more on Tuesday, New Year's Eve. So 13 more games here in this video. Oh my goodness. Okay, UNC taking on UConn. It's an 8 o'clock in the morning game. It's at Fenway Park. Obviously, this is the Fenway Bowl between UConn and UNC. I am wearing a UNC jersey. No, I have no association to the school. I just like the Jordan jersey. I am taking the North Carolina Tar Heels to win this game, and I do think they cover the 3 points as well. I don't think the game's very competitive. I get it, UNC loses a lot in the portal. They do, because, again, they're an ACC school. I don't think Omarion Hampton's playing. I really don't think he is. I believe he's a guy that's going to be preparing for the draft, because a lot of these players do that. Jacoby Criswell, to my knowledge, is playing, which is great. Obviously, he was not the starting quarterback to start the season. Obviously, that was Max Johnson. Max Johnson gets injured the first game. Yeah, I don't think Hampton's going to play this game. He's already obviously, said he's going to enter the draft. Hell, I'm looking at an article saying why the Las Vegas Raiders should draft Omarion Hampton. I wouldn't mind it, but now they lost their pick, so who knows if they can get Shedeur anymore. Obviously, because they found a way to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in the most Raiders fashion ever. They win a game, but all their fans are mad because, oh, we want Shedeur. Are the Giants really going to take Shedeur? I don't know. They might just go with Cam Ward regardless. But then there's like the Tennessee Titans. Maybe the Titans do something and take Shedeur Sanders. Who knows? Give me North Carolina. Yeah, give me North Carolina to win the football game here. I know Omarion Hampton, again, probably will not play. And this is the final game for North Carolina before the Bill Belichick era, before Belichick takes over and makes it not the Patriot way, but the Tar Heel way here at North Carolina. You're likely going to get, again, a big running game big running day out their freshman Davion Gause, who is the freshman out of Opelika, Florida. He had 62 carries for 314 yards this season, averaged 5 yards a carry. They're probably going to rely on him a lot. The only reason the line's so close is because, again, North Carolina loses some guys going into this football game. But I want to remind you again, the times that UConn has played Power 4 football teams this season, they've lost. They are 8-4. They're an independent, but they're really a group of 5 independent. Against non-Power 4 teams, they were 8-0. When they played Power 4 teams, they went 0-4. They lost 50-7 to Maryland. They lost 26-20 at Duke. They lost 23-20 at home against that bad Wake Forest team, and they lost 31-24 at Syracuse. Joe Fagano's not bad. He's not great. Cam Edwards, Skylar Bell, those are the guys who are going to do it for UConn. But guys, this is a group of 5 football team playing a Power 4 team, and not a bad Power 4 team. Sure, they lose their best player in Amarion Hampton, but I wouldn't be that concerned about UNC not winning this football game. Give me the North Carolina Tar Heels to win this one. I don't think it's that competitive of a game. I don't think it's that close of a football game. So give me, again, the Tar Heels to take care of business here in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. Nice. From one baseball stadium to another, we go to the Pinstripe Bowl. Obviously at Yankee Stadium over in the Bronx. Sorry, it's the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Bad Boy Mowers used to have the Gasparilla Bowl. Now they have the Fenway Bowl. Sorry, the Pinstripe Bowl. Anyways, give me Boston College. We're taking an underdog here. Plus 150 on the line. I refuse to accept that Nebraska's a half-competent football team. Because they're not, guys. Nebraska's just not good. And, the headline of Boston College might be, Thomas Castellanos is gone. I don't think Thomas Castellanos is very good. Grayson James is arguably better than Castellanos. He probably is better than Castellanos. The reason, again, Castellanos left, the reason he transferred and got benched is because, again, Grayson James was better. And, where does Castellanos go? Florida State. Because that went so well for the guy before you who transferred to Florida State. And also, by the way, that guy's going to the NFL draft. DJ Uyangale. So, hey, Castellanos might enter the draft too next year. I'm sure that'll go well for him. I think Boston College is fine, though. I mean, again, regardless of which running back plays for Boston College, they have 3 really good running backs. They've got Kyle Robichaux, they've got Trayshawn Ward, they got Jordan McDonald. Any of those guys can get it done. Okay, yeah, it was Robichaux a lot, but Ward is not horrible either. I really think, again, this is where BC wins this football game. It's because of their run game. Nebraska's offense is so incompetent. It's crazy. Their offense is just bad. Guys, look at the point totals they put up at the end of the season. And Dylan Raiola, again, sure, he's a freshman. Yes, he's going to only improve. His Patrick Mahomes cosplay is a little creepy and kind of stalkerish at this point, but I get it. He's a fan. I was a bbig Tom Brady guy growing up. I wore the number 12 in high school, but I didn't copy everything Tom Brady did. Maybe I did the Let's Go. I'm kidding, I didn't. But it's just, it's kind of, I don't know. It's odd. And Raiola, again, he models his entire play after Patrick Mahomes. He's not great, though, and I get it. He's a freshman. Again, yes, he will only get better, but I don't know. Raiola is just, Their run game isn't bad, I'll give them that, but Nebraska, again, look what they did at the end of the season. This is a team that started 5-1. They were going into that game at Bloomington. It was a big game. Obviously, IU was undefeated. They were 6-0. Nebraska was 5-1, and Indiana won the game 56-7. Because, again, IU was able to, beat the brakes off of them with their offense, and that Nebraska offense couldn't get anything going. They scored 7 points in that game. And then what did they do after that? They scored 17 at Ohio State, probably the best game they played all season. But again, they had the lead for most of it. They just weren't able to mount anything late in that football game. Raiola could not get them in the end zone. They lose to UCLA. They lose to USC. They beat Wisconsin to become bowl eligible. And they scored 10 points against, yes, a good offense in Iowa. Good defense in Iowa. But at the same time, you only scored 10 points. Boston College will be able to score the football. I don't trust in the fact that Nebraska is going to be able to score the football. So with that being said, give me the Boston College Eagles to take care of business here against the Cornhuskers in this Pinstripe Bowl. So yes, give me Boston College to take the dub here in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. What a name. Let's move on to the New Mexico Bowl. We have got the Texas Christian Horned Frogs taking on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Yeah, sure, it is one of these games where it's all right, the winner of this one is kind of expected. But honestly, Louisiana was not that bad of a football team this season, right? They looked pretty good in the Sun Belt this year. Yes, they did lose the Sun Belt Championship game where they got walloped pretty badly against the Marshall Thundering Herd. They lost the game 31-3. I get that. Again, they didn't look great in that football game. But this is a much different team without Ben Wooldridge. I am not sure if Wooldridge is playing. I'll be honest, there's not many reports about Louisiana Raging Cajun football, to the point where I really can't find much of if he's playing or not, especially because the game, again, is not for a while as of recording. I'm recording this on December 23rd. To my knowledge, again, I don't think he's playing. I don't know. Last report I can see here is December 9th. Yeah, Ben Wooldridge may play the bowl game. I don't know. The game changes when Wooldridge is playing and when he's not. I just don't know if he's playing or not. Honestly, there's no real report, and I'm sure we're gonna get one closer to the game itself. But again, I'm recording this 5 days before the game's actually being played. There's no real report on if Ben Wooldridge is going to get it or get in the game or not. Damn, voice crack. That's first in a while. But TCU, though, again, TCU's a much better team right now. Like, regardless of, if Wooldridge plays, guys, TCU won 4 in a row to end the year in the Big 12. 3 in a row, sorry. They beat OK State, they beat Arizona, they beat Cincinnati. I get it. Those were pretty bad teams at the end of the year in the Big 12. But again, the win over Texas Tech was huge. They came from behind, won that one. They won a low-scoring affair at Utah. I don't think TCU's that bad. Josh Hoover was a little frustrating at points of the season, but Jack Beck was really good at the receiver position, obviously, for TCU this season. He crossed that 1,000-yard mark. Regardless, Texas Christian, again, gets a Sun Belt team. I'm taking the Big 12's own in Texas Christian to win. But I do think Louisiana will cover the 13.5 points. I don't think the Raging Cajuns are as bad as you think they're going to be. Again, this is a team that was pretty good in the Sun Belt this season. And I think they're able just to kind of hang around. 13.5, I'd love this even more if you got 14.5. 13.5 is tricky. I'd stay away personally, but if you force me to make a pick, yeah, I would take the Raging Cajuns to cover. But ultimately, again, to win the football game, sure, there's no doubt that TCU isn't going to win this game. So give me the Horned Frogs to take care of business again in Albuquerque. Let's move on to maybe the best bowl game. I think we got another one later today in the slate. Back-to-back games on ABC, but we start off first with the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Originally, the Camping World Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Originally the Camping World Bowl. We have got Iowa State taking on Miami. It's a big game. It really is, because these are two really good football teams. Again, Iowa State obviously losing in the Big 12 championship game to the Arizona State Sun Devils. Miami was on the brink of making the ACC championship game, but lost in the final week of the regular season to the Syracuse Orange. Now we get Iowa State and Miami here in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Give me the Miami Hurricanes to win this game. I don't think Iowa State's able to keep up offensively. I get it. Miami's offense is not very good. I completely get that. But I do think that they're able to get some stops against Iowa State. I believe, Cam Ward is playing the Pop-Tarts Bowl. There was a report a couple days ago that he is indeed playing this football game. Obviously, again, that makes Miami a much better team because, again, he's their best guy. But Miami's offense is good. Miami's offense is really good. And having Cam Ward in there, obviously, is going to help them, obviously, by far. He was a Heisman finalist this season. My thing is, I don't think Iowa State is going to be able to keep up. I get it, Miami's defense isn't very good, but Iowa State's offense really never impressed me this entire season. Rocco Becht isn't bad, I get that, but I don't know. I'm not sold on the Cyclones. I'm really not. I was just kind of always waiting for them to lose down the stretch, and I thought the pick with them and Arizona State was fairly easy. I thought that Arizona State was going to beat them in the Big 12 title game, and obviously, again, that's what happened. I think the Hurricanes get this done. Again, what they really struggled with in the regular season, obviously, is they just couldn't play defense, right? Syracuse lost. Even in the win against Duke, right? They gave up, 31 points in that victory against the Blue Devils. The Georgia Tech loss. Their offense really couldn't get going, but again, their defense really could never get a stop when they needed them to in that game. I think Miami gets it done. Again, I really like the offense, obviously, with Cam Ward, with Damian Martinez, with Xavier Estrepo, with Jacoby George, Isaiah Horton. They've got too many weapons. Miami should be able to move the ball up and down the field all game long in the Citrus Bowl. The game is in Florida, so again, I know Orlando, Miami, they're not right next to each other, but still, it is in the same state where Miami plays. Iowa's obviously coming over from the Midwest in this game. If anything, there is a home field advantage for the Hurricanes, and I do think they'll be able to take advantage of that. Give me the Miami Hurricanes, and I think their offense, again, will be able to have a day against the Cyclones. Give me Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl to win, and they will cover the 3.5 points as well. All right, next up we go to, I kid you not, this game is called the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice. I can't believe this is real, but it actually is. Wow. You've got the Miami Redhawks, Miami of Ohio Redhawks taking on Colorado State, and we are going with Miami of Ohio. Now, again, Ohio blew out Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game, but other than that game, and other than when they played Miami of Ohio this season, when they played Ohio this season, they looked pretty good. I mean, they won the first game against Ohio, of course, losing the second. It's just a bad game that Brett Gabbert played. Gabbert's been really good for Miami of Ohio over the last couple years. Keon Mosey. Oh, is Keon Mosey the... I was thinking earlier, the Indiana got a running back. I believe it is Mosey. I could be mistaken. It might be. Is it not Mosey who they got? I feel like they got... No, it wasn't Mosey, was it? Okay, Mosey is not in the portal. Yeah, I'm tripping then. Indiana got a really good running back. Mosey is still playing this football game, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, he was a guy who had over 1,000 rushing yards this season. Javon Tracy had 818 receiving yards. I mean, this Miami of Ohio team was pretty solid this year. They're taking on Colorado State, a Rams team that, they weren't bad down the stretch this season. Obviously, they lost their big game on the road at Fresno State. They were able to beat Utah State at the end of the year. But a Colorado State team that is dealing with a lot of injuries. They're led by their quarterback, Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, who was very good this year. And Avery Morrow was pretty good at the running back position as well. But Colorado State would just have games, unlike their final game, in all fairness, they just have games where they barely got by, and they were able to score, again, minimal points, but they were able to just get by because of their defense. But this is a Miami of Ohio team that is going to score on them, and a team that, actually, I don't know if they're going to score that much. Gabbert will throw for yards. It's all a matter of if they can really punch it in the red zone. But this is a team that is going to play very good defense as well. I'd expect this to be somewhat of a low-scoring affair that I think Miami of Ohio is just able to edge out. We do get them at -2.5 in this football game. As a whole, I just think they're better than Colorado State. I think Colorado State was very... they just got by in a lot of their ball games. And again, the game against Fresno State kind of proved to me where Colorado State's at. They weren't a real contender, I don't think, in the Mountain West this season. I think Miami of Ohio is the better football team, and I think they will win the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice. How is that a thing? Next up, we go to the Military Bowl. We have got East Carolina taking on NC State in the Go Bowling Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland. You get the Americans' own conference, at least East Carolina, taking on the ACC's NC State. I think the Wolfpack win the football game, but I think the East Carolina Pirates are able to cover. We get +6 in this ball game here for ECU, and I think they'll cover this line. I don't think they'll win. I think NC State, again, is as a whole just the better football team, obviously, with CJ Bailey at starting quarterback. They're coming off a win on the road at Chapel Hill against North Carolina. They're taking on another Carolina school here in the East Carolina Pirates. But this is an ECU team that really turned around their season once Caden Hauser got the starting role at quarterback, obviously, for this team over their original starter in Jake Garcia. Once Caden Hauser got the starting job, really their pass offense really developed, and they were able to effectively move the ball downfield for most of their games. Obviously, Rajay Harris, their leading rusher with 950 yards this season. But again, Caden Hauser is a power 4 level quarterback just playing in the group of 5. Obviously, again, Caden Hauser was the starting quarterback at Michigan State last season. They rotated some with him and Noah Kim. The Chanticleers backup quarterback this year, obviously behind Ethan Vasco. Neither of those guys played their game against UTSA yesterday, obviously, and they got blown out. But regardless, Caden Hauser was one of the Spartans quarterbacks last season. He's now at East Carolina, and he didn't get the starting job right away, but I really think they should have gone to him out the gates. Hauser's been pretty good for this football team, and ultimately, I think he's the guy that keeps them competitive in this game with NC State. Guys, NC State, even in their wins, have played a lot of really close games this season. The UNC win, a 5-point victory. They lost to Georgia Tech, loses to Duke. They blow out Stanford, but Stanford sucks. Beat Cal on the road by 1 point. Syracuse, 7-point loss. Wake Forest, 4-point loss. NIU, 7-point win. They win a lot of close games. Louisiana Tech, La Tech, who is horrible, who we're going to talk about later when they play Army in a game where Army's getting like 20 points. But still, NC State barely gets by teams. And I think, again, this is a close game that NC State just edges out. I think the Wolfpack do get the victory, but I think the East Carolina Pirates are able to keep it a ball game. Give me NC State to win, but give me ECU to cover the 6 points. Okay, next up we go to the Alamo Bowl. It might be the best game here of the entire bowl season. Seriously. I mean, other than the playoff games, obviously, and this game, and the Pop-Tart Bowl, obviously, with Iowa State and Miami are both great football games, but obviously this game is going right after the Pop-Tart Bowl on ABC, and it is with the 17th ranked BYU Cougars taking on the number 23 ranked Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado's got their guys playing. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, they are playing most of their guys for this game. Same with Brigham Young. It is a straight Big 12 matchup, but in the Alamo Bowl. Obviously, again, originally Pac-12 versus Big 12, obviously, with Colorado coming from the Pac-12 conference. But Colorado's playing their guys, and obviously they have the Heisman Trophy winning corner/receiver. Obviously, we're talking about Travis Hunter. Now, I don't want to bring it up, but we will bring it up, just because why not? How is this going to affect Travis Hunter? You know what, you and I both know what we're talking about here. The controversy and just, the internet finding out stuff about Travis Hunter's fiance. How is that going to change this game? Again, I don't think it's going to affect it too much, but hell, Travis Hunter has deactivated his social media accounts. Travis Hunter has been the center of attention in the college football world, at least on social media. It feels like that's been the biggest story coming out this weekend, not the playoffs. It's been what keeps, being found online about Travis Hunter's relationship, and really primarily just his girlfriend. It's something, man. It's something. I'm not going to go into vivid detail about it, but man, I mean, the music video, the parties, the whole sitting in the car during parties, it's not ideal. It's really not. I don't know. I'm not going to speak about another man's relationship like that, but it doesn't sound great. I don't know. But Colorado does have the best quarterback in college football. Obviously, that is Shedeur Sanders. He is likely going to be the number 1 overall pick. Right now, again, that is the New York Football Giants. Will Shedeur end up playing for the Giants? I don't know. Obviously, Travis Hunter is going to be a top 5 pick as well. And it is crazy that Colorado has 2 top 5 picks. Something else to talk about. I know it's not this year's Colorado team, but who is the starting quarterback next year for Colorado? I think it's the same kind of thing we have to talk about with Michigan. Obviously, we'll get to Michigan in a little bit with their quarterback situation next year with Underwood, obviously, and Mikey Keenum from Fresno State. Colorado goes out and gets Caden Slaughter, and obviously they've got Juju too. I think Juju's better as a true freshman than Caden Salter. And I also think Mikey Keen's much better than Salter as well. I think, again, if Colorado was trying to get a quarterback for next year, I think Mikey Keen is by far the better guy compared to him and Caden Salter. I don't understand that move, because is Salter really going to play next year? Is he going to waste away his senior year, not at Liberty, instead at Colorado, to sit the bench for a true freshman, who I do think is better than him, watching Juju's freshman tape, high school tape, but I don't know. Regardless, that's next season. This year, again, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and all the main guys for this Buffaloes team are playing in the Alamo Bowl, and that's going to make all the difference. BYU, I don't think they're losing too much to the transfer portal last I checked. I don't think it's, as much as some of these other teams. And by the way, I didn't say it earlier, Texas Tech is doing amazing work in the transfer portal. Just saying. BYU's got some guys, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. They have more guys in the portal, though, than Colorado. Regardless, I like the Buffaloes to win this football game. Even if, again, both these teams are at full strength, if we got this game in the regular season, I would take Colorado. Guys, Colorado's a good team. They just, again, at the end of the season, could not win that Kansas game. And unfortunately, again, it stopped them from going to the postseason. Would they have been able to beat Arizona State in the Big 12 championship game? I think so. I honestly do think so. I don't know. Their defense is really bad. The thing is, BYU's offense really struggled at the tail end of the season, losing that Arizona State game, losing the Kansas game. All they had to do is win one of those two, and they would have been in the Big 12 championship game. Jake Retzlaff is not bad, but I don't know. They really struggled protecting Retzlaff towards the end of the season. Hell, even in that game against Utah as well, they really struggled to protect Retzlaff. He did bail them out of a lot of situations, but I don't know. I don't trust BYU to win this football game, and I just don't think they're able to keep up. Again, yes, they're taking on a defense that's not great, but Colorado's defense does play decently well against these offenses that are not truly elite. I'm not going to put BYU in that elite category. Sure, their defense plays well, but they are taking on one of the best offenses in all of college football. Again, the reason why Colorado is not in the postseason is because of their defense. They have the 2 best players in college football this season, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. I think Colorado wins the football game. Again, the whole Travis Hunter thing isn't ideal, but it is what it is. All Colorado's got to do is win the football game, and we will see what the future holds for Coach Prime in Colorado. I just don't really know if he's going to stick around next season to coach Caden Salter. Again, that's why I think Juju's probably going to get the starting job next year. But why did Salter go there in the first place? The whole thing about Michigan, right? If Mikey Keen's going there, he's obviously starting over Bryce Underwood, and I think he should be. Again, I think Juju's better than all these guys, but It is what it is. Let's move on now to our next game. Again, we got Colorado to win this one. We like the Buffs to cover the 4 points as well. Let's move on to the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. We have got the worst team that is playing in the bowl season. We are talking about the La Tech Bulldogs taking on Army. So if you don't know, we have a ban list here on the channel of teams who I just refuse to bet on. It's not updated. We have added some teams since last time I made this. Regardless, here's the Greedo Plays ban list. Teams are as follows: New Orleans Pelicans, obviously the New Orleans Pelicans, La Tech football, Jacksonville State basketball, University of San Diego basketball, and High Point University basketball. To be added soon is DePaul University basketball. And there's one more team that I just banned. Oh God, I'm blanking. Oh my goodness, they just lost a couple days ago. I'm totally blanking on. West Michigan basketball. They are so banned. That they might be the worst one on that list. Western Michigan Broncos basketball. My goodness. Regardless, La Tech is banned. I refuse to bet on this team. I refuse to pick this team. This team is so horrible. They just are. They are the worst team in the bowl season. The only reason they are here is because Marshall had to pull out of this bowl game. They had to because they lost all their guys to Southern Miss. Yes. All of Marshall's players who they literally won the Sun Belt this season. Sorry, the CUSA this season. No, Sun Belt. They literally all went to another Sun Belt team because their coach went to Southern Miss, so everyone followed to Southern Miss. Marshall's really good. And basically, they're going to have a Kurt Cignetti type run with Southern Miss next season. They are going to win the Sun Belt at Southern Miss. It's going to be really weird. It's something like a situation where Cignetti goes from James Madison to Indiana, and Indiana sees all this success with all these JMU guys. But it's the same conference. Again, you go from Sun Belt JMU to Big Ten, but this is Sun Belt to Sun Belt. It's really weird. La Tech replaces them, and this is just one of the worst matchups we could have gotten. La Tech's offense abysmal. Sometimes they show up, but the only games they've really showed out this season are Kennesaw State. They didn't play bad in the Jacksonville State game, but you just see my enthusiasm for these games. We just talked about BYU and Colorado, and you know how we're gonna end our Saturday night by watching La Tech and Army in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's the only thing that La Tech's got going for them in this game, is that this game's in the state of Louisiana, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Army could go to La Tech, go to their backyard, and they will blow them out. I don't care that Army lost to Navy. Guys, this is an Army team that a couple weeks ago beat Tulane by 21 points in the American Championship game. It's kind of a shame that this is the game we get for the Black Knights. I know you can't do this, but I'd rather have Army play the New Mexico Bowl against TCU and put the Raging Cajuns in this game against Louisiana Tech. I'd much rather see that, especially, again, Louisiana coming off their loss in their conference championship game. I wouldn't mind it. Sun Belt versus USA. I'd rather have that game in the Independence Bowl and put Army and TCU in the New Mexico Bowl. I think it'd be a much better matchup. Regardless, here we are. We get the 5-7 La Tech Bulldogs, who are only here because of their academics. Because again, that's how you skip the line. That's how you get the bowl game. If a 6-6 team or better drops out, then it's the best 5-7 team academically, and that's the La Tech Bulldogs. They're going to be so unmotivated to win this football game. Army's the much better team. They will run the football up and down the field against La Tech. La Tech can't score. I'm serious. La Tech is not going to score more than 10 points in this game. So the question is, do you think Army can score 4 touchdowns? 100%. Give me Bryson Daly and the Army Black Knights. They do lose Kanye Udo. He is going to Arizona State, which I do think is crazy, by the way. Think about the lifestyle change. This guy's going from the Army to Arizona State. My goodness. Anyways, he's not playing, I assume, so it's going to be a lot of Bryson Daly running the football, and expect the Kings Academy product, Noah Short, out of the Bay Area to have a night as well. Give me Army to beat the La Tech Bulldogs, and they will do it by more than 16.5 points. Next up, we move on to the only game on Monday. We have got the Iowa Hawkeyes taking on the Missouri Tigers. Give me Iowa. Yeah, give me Iowa in this football game. I think they're going to be able to shut down Missouri. Missouri was so horrible this season. Yeah, I know. Oh, they went 9-3. This is not that good of a team, man. They were so underwhelming this season. It was insane how underwhelming they were. Luther Burden's not playing. I don't know if Brady Cook is playing this football game. Brady Cook is playing. But, it's weird because Luther Burden is this hot prospect. He's going to be, a first or second round pick for Missouri. And they couldn't get him the ball. He had 600 yards all year long. He's a talent, man. I mean, he should have this type of season like McMillan had, Terratore McMillan had, potentially like Nick Nash, Travis Hunter, and here he is with 670 yards and 6 touchdowns. I get it. It was the quarterback situation. Brady Cook was hurt most of the season. Drew Pine had to play. Obviously, they couldn't get Burden the ball, but Theo Weiss had more yards than Luther Burden this season. It was really weird. Missouri struggles against really good defenses. And you know who has a really good defense? Yeah, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I think Iowa's going to be able to shut this team down. I really think so. Again, the Iowa quarterback situation is going to be something. So Cade McNamara is in the transfer portal. Yes, Cade McNamara is going to continue to play college football. He is not going to be playing this game. He is in the portal. I don't know if he's committed anywhere yet. No, he is not committed yet. Their backup quarterback, or the guy who took over at the end of the season, was it was not Sullivan. He got hurt. It was Jackson Stratton, the sophomore out of Mission Bay, California. I believe he's playing, last I checked. I don't think he's in the portal, is he? I don't think so, even though Hank Brown is coming here next season. Yeah, Hank Brown transfers from Auburn to Iowa. I don't know if he's going to start over Jackson Stratton. I'd assume, again, it's going to be somewhat of a competition. Stratton has gotten very limited playing time. Again, he's a redshirt sophomore who I believe redshirted last season, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Again, I think they'll probably go Hank Brown if there's a reason he's coming here. But I don't know. Hank Brown's nothing special, obviously. He never started at Auburn. He was behind a lot of guys. So who knows? Yeah, who knows what happens to Hank Brown? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to take Iowa to win this football game, though. It's a big difference, really. The way Iowa was playing at the end of the year, it wasn't anything crazy, but, you know, they were able to win low-scoring games against Maryland, against Nebraska. Obviously, their running back and Caleb Johnson is their best player. Last I checked again, Caleb Johnson is not in the transfer portal either, even though he's been one of the best running backs in college football this season. I don't know if Caleb Johnson's going to the NFL draft or not. If he is, then I'd assume he won't play this football game, but if he's coming back for another year, I would think, again, he would play in this bowl game. But honestly, if you're Caleb Johnson, you should probably go to the draft, right? Because, I mean, he had 1,500 yards of the season. It was a great season, by the way, for Caleb Johnson, one of the elite running backs in all of college football. And really, Caleb Johnson was the reason why Iowa was so good. All right, Johnson is in the NFL draft, so I don't think he's playing this football game. That sucks because he was their leading rusher in every single game they had, but we kind of are picking Iowa because they're running back, but we're also picking them because they're defense. Again, Missouri has struggled so much in offense this year, and I think Iowa was able to pull off the upset. Give me the Hawkeyes at plus money at the Big Ten to beat the SEC zone, plus 130 for the Hawkeyes. I don't mind it. Give me Iowa to win the Trans-Perfect Music City Bowl from Nashville, Tennessee. What is Trans? Let's look up what Trans-Perfect is. Oh, it's a computer. It's a media company. I just assumed it was something else. It's not. Okay. Let's move on to the ReliaQuest Bowl. It used to be the Outback Bowl. It sucks that they've gotten rid of that name, the Outback Bowl, one of these historic bowl games, or again, one of these, again, like, you know, you grow up on the Outback Bowl. 9 in the morning on New Year's usually. Now it's on New Year's Eve. We get Alabama and Michigan. I do think Michigan's able to cover the 13 points. Yeah, hear me out. I do think they're able to cover it. Alabama's going to be missing a lot of guys. Jalen Milroe is playing this football game, but Bama, again, is losing some to the portal. Obviously, not the season Alabama wanted to have, and I don't care what you think. Oh, Alabama should have been in the playoffs. No, they got eliminated when they lost at Oklahoma, and also when they went to Rocky Top and lost as well. Again, you want to complain about the playoffs? Well, SMU, sure, whatever, but they deserve to be there. Indiana lost by 10 points. Tennessee got blown out at the shoe. I don't give a damn. Tennessee deserved to be in, but that means Alabama's not a playoff team. Okay, now that we got that out the way, Alabama's playing in the Outback Bowl against the Michigan Wolverines. I believe the last time Alabama was not in the postseason, they did play the Michigan Wolverines in the Citrus Bowl. I don't remember entirely what season that was. But now you have the 7-5 Wolverines taking on the 9-3 Alabama Crimson Tide. It makes sense that this game's booked, obviously. I was looking at the Big Ten. I'm like, all right, well, who could have potentially played this game? Or who could the ReliaQuest Bowl could have gotten for this game out of the Big Ten? Obviously, they get Bama, but who can they get out of the Big Ten? Well, I was thinking, all right, maybe Illinois, but they got the South Carolina game, and then maybe, I don't know, Washington, who wasn't great this season, but they got the Louisville game, and you're thinking, okay, who else? There's Nebraska, no. Iowa maybe could have gotten this football game, but it is what it is. Give me Michigan and Alabama. I do think Michigan covers 13. I think their defense will keep them in this game, and I think, honestly, it's just the way that they played in the Ohio State game. I think that's going to carry some momentum for the Wolverines. I know, again, they are going to lose in the portal, obviously. They did just land Mikey Keene, which I think is a great add for this team. I don't know where Alex Orji is going. I wouldn't mind seeing him go to a spot like Georgia Tech. And there's going to be spots open for him. He could work in Cal's offense. I wouldn't mind seeing Orji there. Where else could Alex Orji play? One of these running teams. Honestly, I mean, hell, if you could go to, like, Army and be Bryson Daly's replacement, he's not going to go to the Army, but that wouldn't be horrible either. Regardless, Michigan is losing in the portal. They are losing a lot, but Alabama is losing quite a bit as well. I believe it's going to be Davis Warren in this football game last I checked. Warren is a senior senior, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he's a senior, so this will be Davis Warren's last game. Was Davis Warren good this year? No, he wasn't. Khalil Mullings, I believe, is playing. Colston Loveland, I don't think he is. Obviously, he's going to be going into the NFL draft. But for Alabama, right, good football team, kind of, 9-3, obviously lost to Tennessee. Milrose playing the football game, that's great. How motivated is Alabama going to be to really win this football game, though? I don't know. I think they win it, but again, 13 points is just a lot. I think Michigan does cover this line just because I don't really know how motivated Alabama is, and Michigan is coming off their best win of the year, and really the only game that mattered to them, obviously, once they got eliminated from the postseason. So give me Michigan to parlay that momentum into a cover here of 13 points. I much rather would like this at 14, but we'll take 13. Give me the Wolverines to cover this line in the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Next up, we move on to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. We have got the Washington Huskies taking on the Louisville Cardinals. Now, again, the Cardinals will be getting Miller Moss next season. They landed primarily one of the biggest prizes, at least in the quarterback transfer portal. They're taking on the Washington Huskies, who were severely underwhelming down the stretch of the season this year. And I do think Louisville is able to get them in this football game. Truly, I think they will. You look at what Louisville has done, obviously, this season. They were able to go on the road, pick up a huge victory over, pretty good team, obviously a playoff team in the Clemson Tigers. For UW, I believe Will Rogers is not going to be playing this game because he got benched at the end of the year for Demond Williams. I don't think Williams is bad. He's their guy of the future. I'm not complaining about it. Again, they have no future for Will Rogers. Will Rogers, get ready to learn USFL, buddy, because I guess that's where he's going to go. Is Will Rogers going to, I guess he'll try for the NFL draft, but he's not going to get picked. So either get ready to learn practice squad or get ready to learn USFL or Canada, because there's no spot for Will Rogers in the NFL. Louisville's just the better football team. I really don't understand this line, I'll be honest with you. Minus 135, minus 2.5. Louisville's much better. I expect Tyler Shaw to play this game. Tyler Shaw is, 28 years old. No, he's not, but he's just really old. He's a senior. He's got to play this football game. He wasn't bad this season. I mean, hell, you better have not been that bad for as long as he's played college football. I find it funny, by the way, that Harrison Bailey is going to be on the way out again of Louisville. This is a guy who I don't know if he's going to get another season. I don't know. I don't know why Harrison Bailey went here. Former Tennessee quarterback, transfers to Louisville, was the backup this season. I don't know if they're going to give him another year of eligibility. So it kind of makes the case why did he ever come here? Why are you coming to Louisville just at the bench? That's why I don't understand about some of these guys. Louisville did lose a lot in the portal though. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not ideal. But UW is losing a lot in the portal as well. I do think Louisville's able to win the football game. I'm not impressed with anything Washington does this season, guys. They are not close to the same team they were last season. I think Louisville still gets the victory in the Sun Bowl, Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl in El Paso, and they cover the 2.5 points as well. Next up, we move on to the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Oh, what have they done to the Citrus Bowl? They made it the Cheez-It Bowl. My goodness. The South Carolina Gamecocks take on the Illinois Fighting Illini. This is not a competitive football game. It's not. South Carolina is levels ahead of Illinois. They just are. Illinois played a somewhat weak Big Ten schedule this year, won the games that they were supposed to, and then just lost to Purdue, Oregon, but then lost to Minnesota. I get it. The Golden Gophers were playing better as the season went on. But just, again, games that just shouldn't be losing. Let's just be honest. They shouldn't be losing to Minnesota. I don't really like the Fighting Illini that much, I'll be honest with you. I just don't. Luke Altmaier, obviously their quarterback, did nothing all that special this season. Kind of just, again, put his team in positions to win. Not a game changer by any stretch of the imagination. South Carolina's got some good players, though. I think, again, if you want to make that case about, who's the most deserving, who's the best teams that should be in the postseason, the team that nobody's talking about is the South Carolina Gamecocks. They just are. They were the best team who didn't make it. I'm not going to argue that, South Carolina should have been in, because no, they shouldn't have. Right? Because, again, if we're talking about, teams that deserve to be in, which it should be that way, that's why I'm completely fine with Indiana and Southern Methodist and all these teams making the postseason, then, again, those teams should be in. But we're talking about if we want to make that discussion that people are saying, Alabama should have got in, they were the best team. No, the best team who didn't make the playoffs is South Carolina. I don't care they lost to Alabama. They went on the road to Tuscaloosa and lost the game by 2 points. They have not lost. They went to Oklahoma and beat that team 35-9. Alabama lost and put up 3 points at Oklahoma. South Carolina beat Clemson on the road the last game of the year, and Clemson still went to the ACC championship game and won it. The best team that didn't make the playoffs is by far the South Carolina Gamecocks. And I'll be the first to admit, I was hating on Lenora Sellers at the beginning of the season. I watched the ODU game. I did not think Lenora Sellers was good at all. I was pushing for Robbie Ashford to start. I was wrong. Lenora Sellers is a really good quarterback, and Lenora Sellers is going to make waves in the SEC next season in his second year starting. Again, this is still a freshman. He's going to be much better next season. And South Carolina, I believe, is going to be a playoff team next season. I really think so. This is a really good South Carolina team. Sellers can run the ball. He can throw the ball. They have a pretty solid run game as a whole. And the Fighting Illini, I just don't think is going to be able to contain this. I think South Carolina is by far the better football team, and I really don't think this game is close. I think this is a blowout. South Carolina is going to be, going to show why they were the best team to not get in. And sure, maybe the commentators make the point, maybe South Carolina would have played Notre Dame better. Who knows? But again, the point I'll make to South Carolina, even though I'm saying they are the best team to not make the playoffs, you gotta at least have 2 losses, right? I mean, you can't have 3 losses and make the playoffs. The one, again, they probably should have won was the LSU game at home. That's one they should have had. If they beat LSU at home, 10-2, probably have to put them in the playoffs, and that would have sent SMU out. Could have got South Carolina versus Penn State. I do think Penn State still wins the football game, but again, I like the Gamecocks a lot. And I think this is going to be a playoff team next season off the back of Lenore Sellers. So give me South Carolina to blow out Illinois here. I don't think it's that competitive of a football game. 9.5 should be more. South Carolina wins the Citrus Cheez-It Bowl. Let's go into our final bowl game. And I messed up the graphic. My fault. This is not the Cheez-It Bowl, obviously. This is the Kinders Texas Bowl. So my fault for not fixing the graphic there. We got Baylor taking on LSU. So again, we've still got more bowl games. We still got the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. We've got the First Responder Bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, and the Bahamas Bowl, plus the FCS Championship game, and then the 2 semifinal games in the college football playoffs. Those 7 predictions will be out again on Thursday, January 2nd. So that's the same day of the Duke Ole Miss football game. I don't know why that's a matchup, by the way. Oh my goodness. I don't know why that's a game. By the way, I'll just say right now, we love Buffalo in the Bahamas Bowl on January 4th against Liberty. That's a blowout. Buffalo's going to destroy that team, okay? That is a super mega max, okay? Just wait for it. That is the biggest max we have for you. Buffalo versus Liberty. I'm not going to go into depth about it right now, but trust me, next week we will talk about Buffalo Liberty and how that's not going to be a competitive football game. We are all over the Bulls. We've been all over them all season long. Anyways, so again, those 7 games will be talked about on January 2nd. Our final game, though, is the Baylor Bears taking on the LSU Tigers. Give me LSU. We're going to take the plus money here. I'm going to ride with LSU in this football game. Baylor, sure, they were hot to end the year, but you got to look at the teams they really beat. I get it. They beat Kansas. That was a very good victory. It was. I'll give them that. Sawyer Robertson has been playing better football. Obviously, won the starting job or took over the starting job over Daquan Finn. Daquan Finn is in the transfer portal. Who knows where he will go? There are spots for Daquan Finn next season. Again, maybe not the Power 4 level. There should be. We're going to think. No, Duke got someone. There's going to be some spot where I think Daquan Finn's going to end up. I think, again, to ensure that he plays next season, I'd like to see him go into the G5 or potentially, you know what? Daquan Finn at Stanford? I don't know. That's not a bad move. They lost Ashton Daniels. They're really going to start Justin Lamson next season. Wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't mind it. Honestly, that's not a bad spot. Ole Miss is going to need Ole Miss is going to need a quarterback. Dart's gone. The backup's leaving. Yeah, I don't think Daquan Finn should play it. Ole Miss, but still, I could be blanking if Ole Miss has got someone coming up. Regardless, I like LSU to beat Baylor. Bryson Washington was good this season on the ground, obviously, for the Bears. He was really good this season. But LSU, again, their defense, not horrible. At least at the end of the year, wasn't horrible. They got they got worse as the season went on, but then they bounced back at the very end of the year. Obviously, again, this is an LSU team that was potentially going to make the postseason. But they lost back-to-back games to kind of kill their playoff momentum at all, right? 3 straight games, lost to A&M, Bama, Florida. But they bounced back and didn't look that bad in the Vanderbilt and the Oklahoma games. If we can parlay that into anything, is that they will beat Baylor in this football game. Newsmer and the guys, again, their pass-heavy attack. I think LSU should be able to win this football game. Again, they were a 4-loss team in the regular season, but the way LSU did end the year with those 2 games and those 2 victories does give me hope that they can go out here and beat Baylor in the Texas Bowl. I know, again, they're playing Baylor in Texas, but the LSU faithful is going to travel over for this football game. I'm not too concerned with it being a hometown environment and a home field advantage, really, for the Baylor Bears. So give me LSU to win this game again in Texas. I believe it's in Houston. Give me LSU over Baylor. So, folks, that'll do it for our college football playoffs round 2 predictions, along with every single bowl game this week up until January 1st. Again, we'll be back on January 2nd for our bowl predictions for the final 4 bowl games, plus the FCS championship game, plus the 2 college football playoff games. So make sure to join us again on the 2nd of January for that in the new year. But again, folks, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba forever.